Welcome inside AT&T Stadium, where we just saw a game that Buckeye fans could remember for a long, long time. An epic win over Texas here in the Cotton Bowl, 28-14, a game that was certainly not as easy as Ohio State's first two wins in the college football playoff, but a game where the Buckeyes took over in the fourth quarter, scoring the final 14 points of a game to beat the Longhorns, punch their ticket to the national championship game, and there's no way we could start this without talking about one man, and that is Jack Sawyer. Andy, we're not really supposed to play favorites as beat writers, but I know it's true for both of us. Jack Sawyer's a personal favorite of ours. I think he's a personal favorite of a lot of Buckeye fans, a guy from just down the road in Pickerington, Ohio, a guy who loves Ohio State. His entire life, what he's wanted is to be a Buckeye and to win games for the Buckeyes, to win championships for the Buckeyes. He was the guy at this time last year, after they lost in the Cotton Bowl, he was sitting on that stage talking about coming back next year and making a run like this. He was one of the first guys to say he was coming back for his senior year, and he brought JT Tuimoloau and Trayon Henderson and Donovan Jackson, Emeka Egbuka, you name it, all these guys back for this season to try to make a national championship run. And tonight, he ensured the Buckeyes would have a chance to play in a national championship game because he made one of the plays that's it's going to be an all-time play in Ohio State history. If Ohio State beats Notre Dame in 10 days and wins the national championship, the play that I think we will remember from this college football playoff run, much like 10 years ago when Ezekiel Elliott ran 85 yards through the heart of the South, was Jack Sawyer running 83 yards through the heart of Texas, because fourth and goal, game on the line, Texas has a chance to tie the game. Instead, Jack Sawyer knocks the ball out of Quinn Ewers' hands, returns it all the way for a touchdown to effectively seal a victory for the Buckeyes and officially become a Buckeye legend.
Yeah, I was shaking my head at some points when you were talking because there's just so much with Jack. I covered recruiting part-time, one of my first jobs after college on the beat. And Jack was one of the most personable, never acted like he was a five-star kid. Jack is one of the most down-to-earth people you'll ever meet. And I think some of just how good of a human he is got lost in the national media after the whole flag planting thing with Michigan and some of the, him sticking up for the team in certain ways after that game and all of that ugliness. But that Michigan game should have been a full circle moment for Jack. Should have been the full circle moment for Jack. Talking about making an interception to keep the game tied in that one and giving the ball back to your offense when all seemed lost and it looked like they were going to lose. And you ultimately still lose to Michigan, all the emotions that come out with that. And he has been the emotional driver of this program in many ways the last year or two. Like you said, it was him who spearheaded the return of all of these seniors. Talking to Donovan Jackson in the locker room after this game, Donovan said Jack called him like 3 times, like just ask him, you got to come back, you got to come back, you got to come back. He's been Mr. November, December, and January. We've talked about it before. He steps up in the biggest moments. And every time I've interacted with Jack, be it on the record or off the record, again, he's just a great person. And I think to be that Pickerington kid, to love this program, to defend it at every turn. There was no person you would have wanted on this team to see make that play more than Jack Sawyer. But all that being said, all the praise at Jack, this defense today won this game in many parts. The offense did what was needed at the end of the game. Trayon Henderson makes a spectacular play before halftime. But this was 3 plays before that play. Texas is at the 1-yard line, about to go in and tie the game. And what does this defense do? It did what it did against Nebraska, against Penn State. At so many turns this year, when this team, when it's down to its last yard, they have said it, give them an inch of grass, they'll defend it. And they, damn it, lived by that expression at the end of this game. Plugging a first and goal run for no gain. Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom, maybe the most instinctual safeties in college football, snuff out a toss play and it loses 7 yards, just shooting the gap with just like they knew it was coming. Probably did, I guess. And then it all set up that Jack Sawyer play. This was a game driven by the defense. The offense also did what was needed. I said it couldn't all be easy coming into this game on Real Pod Wednesdays. There was going to be a game, I felt like, on this playoff run, if they were going to go win it all, where they were going to have to win a tight one in the fourth quarter. And this team in the fourth quarter stepped up, and any narratives about Ryan Day's inability to have this team ready to go in the fourth quarter of crunch time in these games, I think has been largely wiped out. It was largely debunked by this performance in the fourth quarter.
If you saw me looking over there while we were talking, it's because Jack Sawyer was among several Buckeye players walking back to the team buses, and you could hear people over there saying, "We're going to the national championship." I mean, this is a jubilant bunch of Buckeyes. This is what they've been dreaming of all year, is winning a national title, and they're now one game away, one more tough game away against Notre Dame, and we'll be talking a lot more about that over the next 10 days. But like you said, Andy, this one wasn't always pretty. And I'll be honest, there were moments in this game. I mean, there was a moment in this game where we kind of started looking at each other and going, this is starting to feel a little bit like the Michigan game again. The offensive line was struggling for most of the night. The offense was struggling to put drives together. They were having costly drive-killing penalties, one drive after another. And then you see Texas tie the game up there in the third quarter, make it a 14-14 game. And you're starting to think, man, this is getting dangerous now, because even after that, I think the team's traded some punts. It was just kind of like, when is Ohio State going to be able to crack the rock and take over this game? And then first drive of the fourth quarter, it was kind of like what we saw against Penn State. I mean, I used the phrase when I talked to Donovan Jackson after the game. Was this another drop your nuts moment for the Ohio State offense? And he said it certainly was. They drive down the field. Will Howard makes a key fourth down conversion. Joked to me after the game that he fell down on purpose because he wanted to kill some more time off the clock. He didn't actually fall down on purpose. But, when Ohio State needed to go win the game, it's not always going to be pretty. Like you said on Real Pod Wednesdays during the week, they most likely weren't going to have 4 games like they had against Tennessee and Oregon. They were going to have to grind out an ugly one if they were going to ultimately go and achieve their goal. That's what they did tonight. Certainly, we've talked a lot about Jack Sawyer. I mean, you got to give huge props to tonight is Trayon Henderson. Yeah. Because you talk about the other play of the game. I mean, if not for that Jack Sawyer play, when we're talking about the play of a game, we might have been talking about what happened at the end of the first half, because Texas scores with 28 seconds left to go before halftime. It feels like the Longhorns are going to have all the momentum going into the break. We're thinking, Ohio State, they're just going to run one play, probably let the clock run out. And then that one play turns into a 75-yard touchdown, because we've seen it time and time again with Trayon Henderson. The guy is special in the open field. He doesn't need a lot of space to make something happen. And he turned, a play that was really a pretty safe play call. It was one of those plays you're hoping to gain a chunk gain. If you get, 10, 15 yards, you probably call a timeout, and then you're trying to set up a field goal at the end of the half. Mm-hmm. But he erased all that because he just went and took it all the way to the house himself.
Yeah. I know a lot of running backs in the country who can, when those 3 defenders are converging on him about 10 yards downfield, just run right past him and just gone to the end zone, no doubt about it, once he broke through that small gaggle. Good lead blocks on that play, a good play call. You should maybe expect a screen in that situation if you're a defense, but they caught Texas out of position. And also that final drive. I mean, really, I know there were some moments in this game where, again, like you said, it had that Michigan feel to it. I expressed that sentiment too. But I really thought this was still a well-called game by the Ohio State offensive play calling team, offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. The offensive line had its ups and downs in this one, and they struggled for a while. But that final drive, the use of motion and misdirection, I mean, you have plays where Jeremiah Smith is running an end-around motion, an orbit motion it would be called, back around the line of scrimmage, and then you hand it off to the left going the opposite way. I mean, they did so much to distract the eyes and get this Texas defense moving. I feel like these were the best 2 defenses in college football we watched tonight. Texas played like that. They just got beaten down on that last drive. 16 plays, Dan. 16 plays to march down the field and punch in what ends up being the game-winning touchdown. Obviously, Jack Sawyer's touchdown, the game-sealing touchdown. But, I was talking to Donovan in the locker room afterwards. I asked him about that drive, and he said, he looks at me and goes, "Yeah, that's Big Ten football. It just means more." And Donovan was great on the mic tonight after this game. But that drive in particular, for an offensive line took its lumps in this game, but took its lumps for the last 2 years from the fan base getting criticized. Justin Fry calls for his job. What happened in the Michigan game? What happened last year in this very stadium? What happened last year in this very stadium? They responded on that drive, moved it down the field, and the play calling assisted in that greatly.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jeremiah Smith. Certainly not a characteristic game for him. I think he had only one catch, but they found a way. Texas certainly, we knew coming in a big part of our game plan was going to be trying to take Jeremiah Smith out of a game. They did that successfully, but Ohio State found other ways around that. Carnell Tate had a great game, set a career high in receptions. Quinshon Judkins made some big plays there. We already talked about Trayon Henderson, Emeka Buka, obviously Will Howard, with that fourth down conversion, doing the things he needed to do. Kind of another kind of interesting storyline that is going to be kind of interesting to follow going into this national championship game. I don't think Denzel Burke played in the second half. I'm going to have to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure Jermaine Matthews played the entire second half at corner over Denzel Burke. So that's going to be kind of an interesting storyline here going into the national championship game. Obviously, JT Tuimoloau's health is going to be another question. Hurt his ankle there in the first half, but was able to come back in the second half. I asked him after the game how his ankle was feeling. He said he was good, so certainly expect him to play in that national championship game. Will Howard, I asked him about his hand as well. He had the big welt on there. He said, I'm good. It was just bruised. So you expect this is going to be a healthy team, and it's certainly going to be a confident team going into a game against Notre Dame, which you talk about two of the best defenses in the country. I think Notre Dame's very close to being up there too. So it's going to be another battle for Ohio State. Certainly some things they need to clean up on the offensive side of the ball going against a really good Notre Dame defense. But Andy, this is what it's all about. Yeah, it has by no means been a perfect season for Ohio State. Certainly that Michigan game is something that still sticks in a lot of people's minds. But at the end of the day, the ultimate goal in college football is to win a national championship. That's the number one reason why Jack Sawyer came back, why Cody Simon, Donovan Jackson, Tyleek Williams, Emeka Buka, Lathan Ransom. I'm forgetting some, Trayon Henderson. I'm forgetting some names there. The number one reason why all those guys came back, the number one reason why guys like Will Howard and Caleb Downs and Quinshon Judkins and Seth McLaughlin came to Ohio State this year is because they wanted to win a national championship. This team is on the doorstep of doing it, and it's thanks to an epic fourth quarter win tonight.
Yeah, and I'll say this, the Michigan loss is what it is. It happened. I've talked about, understanding the rivalry as someone who grew up in Ohio, went to Ohio State, brother goes to Ohio State, mom went to Ohio State. Dad was there in the Cooper years. If you can't enjoy this win right now as an Ohio State fan, if you can't enjoy where this team is at, what this playoff run has been, if that Michigan win is sitting, or that Michigan loss, that win by Michigan, whatever, is sitting in the back of your head and not letting you enjoy this, then I would encourage you to maybe appreciate what this team has accomplished. I would hope that's a pretty small segment of the fan base at this point, because this has been an incredible story to bounce back from that low moment and do what this run has been. And I to your point about guys getting dinged up, there was a lot of that. I talked to Josh Fryer after the game and Donovan Jackson. They talked about the offensive line. A lot of them had something in their shoulder or their leg, or nicks and bruises. The welt on Will Howard's hand was not the only thing that this team had to battle through. And rather than hit that adversity, they responded to it. And this is a team that has a lot of scar tissue, as Ryan Day might say, has a lot of seniors who have been through a lot of pain, and they now know how to galvanize from those moments and fuel themselves. And the last thing I'll say is that you better go win a national title now. Not from the sense of, this game wasn't great and whatever, but to have gone through all of this, delivered yourself at the doorstep, the 4-year storyline of this senior class and what's happened with it, to be knocking at the door against a Notre Dame team like that I think we would both agree you're clearly better than on paper. You got to carry it home. They know that better than anyone, and I'm excited to cover that game.
Well, we've covered 15-game Ohio State seasons before. We've never covered a 16-game Ohio State season before, but we're going to get to do it this year. 10 days from now, Ohio State plays Notre Dame in the national championship game. January 20 in Atlanta. The entire 11W crew will be there. We're going to have so much more coverage from this game here in Dallas and leading up to that national championship game in Atlanta. So we hope that you'll join us on 11warriors.com for all of that, and we'll catch you there on After Carmen.